Hi, everyone. I am Renda Cherney, the host of Snack Break from Source. Every Monday through Thursday, we take 20 minutes to cover hot topics in commercial architecture and design, including new product releases, designer stories, industry leaders, and the impact of design. If you're tuning in live, know that you're automatically muted, but you can use the chat feature to ask questions or say hello. You can also find a video recording on demand at tothesource.com, or you can subscribe to our new podcast on Apple or Spotify podcasts by searching Source Snack Break. Today is Tuesday, the 8th of September. So we are talking about the impact you can make as a designer. And today we are talking to one of my favorite people, Bergen with Cradle to Cradle. And we are going to talk about how Cradle to Cradle works and what the history of it is. But before we do that, hey, Bergen, how are you?
Hey, Ren. Great to see you. You're also one of my favorite people. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'm glad to take this. This is almost happy hour for me on the East Coast.
Yes.
So
I love that. So before we get into Cradle to Cradle, can you tell us a little bit about how you got to be at Cradle to Cradle? What was your background and why did you want to work in this field?
Yeah. Again, my name's Bergen Hubert, and I'm the Built Environment Manager for the Americas at the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute. I've dedicated my life and short career to working to protect the welfare of humans and the environment, and I thankfully work for an organization that fundamentally strives to do that. At the Institute, I specifically work with building product manufacturers and their suppliers, members of the A&D community, and owners and developers to try to increase the number of C2C specifications and certifications, and more broadly, safe and circular materials in the built environment. Before I joined the Institute, my background is in environmental science and sustainability. I worked at a material health and toxicology consulting company for quite some years out of Washington, D.C., and then joined environmental consulting, and then now I'm at the Institute.
That's awesome. Well, I'm a huge fan of Cradle to Cradle. You're kind of one of the OG certifications. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Cradle to Cradle. I know it comes from a book by William McDonough. So can you talk a little bit about that history and how that transformed into a product certification?
Yeah, definitely. So some of you may have read Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things. I know it was a required reading for my master's degree. And it kind of bridges sustainability, environmental science, economics, design, architecture, chemistry. So following the publication of that book in 2002, William McDonough and Michael Brongard developed the first version of the Cradle to Cradle Certified Product Standard in 2005. As the standard continued to evolve, subsequent versions were developed in 2009 and 2013. And the Institute was founded in 2010 and is deeply rooted in the Cradle to Cradle design philosophy that's laid out in their book. Today at the Institute, our vision is one of a world where safe materials and products are designed and manufactured in a prosperous circular economy to maximize health and well-being of people and planet. And we work, and we work towards this vision by administering what is called the Cradle to Cradle Products program. And this is what guides designers and manufacturers through a certification assessment process. And that's based on 5 categories of sustainability. And building materials, interior design, furniture, office supply actually make up the largest percentage of Cradle to Cradle certified products at 70%.
That's great.
For us, exactly.
Yeah. So in sort of layman's terms, let's talk about like product circularity and what that means, like what a circular economy kind of looks like. And the phrase Cradle to Cradle basically means that they're looking to design and develop products that at the end of their life in one use can be turned back into itself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So most of our products that we make are not designed for recycling or reuse. And this causes us to, rapidly consume resources and at a pretty alarming rate. And the traditional kind of take, make, waste or linear approach to designing and making products is just no longer effective. Most everyday products, including building materials, use known hazardous substances, and they end up in landfill. So it was actually our founders that wrote in their other book called The Upcycle. Human beings don't have a pollution problem; they have a design problem.
Interesting.
So it is. It's really time to like rethink the way we design and make products. And so the concept of the circular economy represents a significant shift in the way we make, use resources and materials and finished products. So in layman's term, a circular economy is an alternative to that traditional take, make, waste, or linear economy. And the idea is to keep resources in use for as long as possible, extract the maximum value from them while they're in use, and then recover the product at the end of each service life.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
And
we work with a lot of carpet manufacturers who do this, where you order the carpet, it goes into a project for a long time, hopefully. And then when you pull it back out, you can send it back to the carpet manufacturer. And what they do is they pull the fiber away from the backing, they grind up the backing and turn it into more backing, and they melt the fiber back down and turn it into basically new fiber. So that is sort of like the cradle to cradle, like dream scenario there, is that a product is created, used, and then sent back and turned back into itself.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is, companies are designing their products for easier disassembly. So that process you were just describing, and then they're actually actively recovering their product and its materials. And then they're successfully incorporating those materials into, new cycles and back into their supply chain. And I just want to point out though, that fundamentally cradle to cradle, it's so important that those materials are made up of safe materials. So before we can even think about cycling, we want to make sure that they're free of toxic substances or chemicals of high concern.
To begin with. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about the 5 categories that you evaluate a product on, because that is one of the reasons I find Cradle to Cradle to be such, not just robust, but also a meaningful certification, because you do look at 5 different categories, not just one. Can you describe those?
Yeah, no, of course. So, the work of the Institute is supported by independent assessment bodies or third-party consultants who actually work with the product manufacturers to ensure that their products, processes, and policies, kind of all meet the kind of rigorous requirements of our standard. And these assessment bodies ultimately make recommendations to the Institute, and the Institute then awards the final certification. And like you mentioned, certification is based on the results in 5 key categories of sustainability. Material health being kind of that foundational attribute. And that is to ensure that the chemical ingredients in a material have been inventoried, assessed, and then optimized for human and environmental health. The second category is product circularity, which we kind of just touched on. And that is to ensure that products are intentionally designed for their intended use cycles, and then they're actively being cycled. The third category is water stewardship, and fundamentally that water is treated as a precious and shared resource and is available to all organisms. Renewable energy and climate stewardship. So that is that we are having a positive impact on the renewable energy supply, and that we're balancing climate change and greenhouse gases. And then the last and not least important is social fairness. And that's to ensure manufacturers are committed to upholding human rights and applying responsible business practices to all of their stakeholders.
I love that. So it's kind of wrapping a lot of certificates into one. You're looking at material health, how toxic are the materials that's being used in this product? How is it being made, and what type of energy or natural resources are being used, and how is the company treating its employees? I mean, that's fabulous.
Right. It's what we call a multi-attribute certification. So, there are many sustainability certifications. You can we are cross-sector as well. So we don't just certify building materials, we certify fashion and textiles, consumer products, packaging. And you can find a multitude of certifications under each of those kind of product sectors, as well as material type, cotton versus polyester versus wood. And we try to recognize a lot of those different standards within ours, because we think that within their own right that they have many positive attributes. But we do feel like for the circular economy, we are the the best certification to kind of prove those 5 key categories.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about why designers should care about this, or why they should talk to their clients about caring about this, and what impact it has.
Yeah. So that statistic's, a pretty startling one that I like to bring up, and it's kind of what impact does the built environment have? I think sometimes we don't realize, how large of an impact it truly has. And, we are a product level or material level certification. But when it comes down to it, we, have a large, role to play in, our entire built environment.
Yeah.
And
let me interrupt really quickly. For those of you on audio, let me read this statistic that I got from Bergen. That is 160 million tons of building related construction and demo debris are created annually in the US alone. So 160 million tons of just demo, and more than a third of global carbon dioxide emissions are attributed to manufacturing. So that's what you're talking about, that sort of circular economy, that like 2 pieces of it are really contributing to negative environmental effects. And we should fix both of them, and we could do it at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And then even just to kind of amplify this farther, this is the current state of affairs. And, I like to throw another statistic around, our global population is ever growing. And, the UN projects that, by the time, I think 2050, we'll be at 9.6 billion people. And to accommodate these people, we will have to have 2.5 trillion square feet of new space. That's equivalent to a New York City every month. So that is, just kind of adding to this mass and scale. And then we actually don't have enough resources for these people. This actually will require 2.5 to 4 times that we have available on planet Earth. So the idea is that we have all of this waste. We don't have enough virgin raw, resources. How can we connect the dots here? And that's through the circular economy, right? So finding new applications for waste, and then ideally never relying on raw resources ever again. So dream world, that's the way the circular economy would work.
I love that. So let's talk about the future, because I know that Cradle to Cradle is about to release a new version of Cradle to Cradle, and I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about what's in this new version. So designers, you're getting a sneak peek right now. I'm so excited. So tell us about this new version. What's different? How did it come about? What did you hear, and how did that influence the changes that you all made?
Yeah, I think this is I will say, an exciting time, because I don't want to focus on the negative so much, for, our organizations and others alike to really kind of, push to transform the scale and safety of, building products designed for the circular economy. We really have an opportunity to hit what I like to call the reset button on designing and manufacturing. And I think Source complements, this mission very well. The idea is that we hope to continue to educate and empower others to become a positive force in society and the environment. And that's done through designing and selecting sustainable products, in my opinion. So, as part of our ongoing commitment to continuously improve the standard, we have begun the development of version 4. And it's currently in version 3.1. It has been for quite some years. So we're really excited to launch version 4 later this year. And again, the intent is to really be the leading multi-attribute, multi-industry science-based standard for verifying products for the circular economy. And some of the things we really are focusing on here is, in addition to material health and product circularity, which I feel like we've touched on quite a bit, are increasing our reporting around material transparency. We are a third-party verified certification, so everything does go through. All information is down to 100 parts per million in each homogeneous material, so it's quite extensive. And again, it is assessed, I guess, on 21 human health and environmental endpoints. So it is a very rigorous process, but we haven't been so transparent externally, because we think transparency should be intentional and purposeful. So with our new material health certificate, which will be part of our version 4 reporting, we hope to be, a little more transparent about what is in the products, even though with confidence, you can be sure that they've been assessed down to that really rigorous point. a lot of designers and architects are asking for this information. They're used to seeing HPDs and declare labels, and they're becoming a more educated, resource. I think that, so we've kind of heard the market in that regard, and I hope that, the new material health certificate will be well received.
Awesome. So for those designers who are asking for more information about what's in a product so they can see it listed out, that's something you guys are looking to implement for version 4.
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. So that's, well, designers, I'm so excited. That's just another place to look for material ingredients, just what we needed. I'm so excited. Is there any other part to sort of, I know you were going to also focus more on the circular economy. What does that kind of look like in the certificate or this new version?
Yeah, so we're actually coming out with what's called a circularity data report.
Ooh.
So yeah, some buzzwords in kind of the circular economy are things around material banks or materials passports. How can we kind of track where a material ends up? What are its kind of circularity attributes around, how do we effectively disassemble this? We just, showed that, terrible statistic around, demolition waste, because a lot of times, even if you spend all of this time and investment, creating a circular product, it may never end up where it should be at the end of its life.
Yeah.
So proper end of use instructions, proper disassembly instructions. So that way, even if a building changes hands 3 or 4 times and that carpet gets ripped up, there's a 1-800 number. You can send it back to the factory. It gets back, and the circular economy is actually realized. So those are some things that we're, pushing for version 4. So, I think that, the more information and kind of outputs from the certification will always help, architects and designers understand the importance, of these circular materials, right? So I think that, it's one thing to have a certification and have the logo, but, more information and outputs and reporting around what criteria and what's actually achieved is always so important.
It's kind of like we have to change not only how we design, but also how our process is for the end of life of a material, because we're just used to a certain way of doing things. And so if we can help develop those new sort of patterns of behavior, that will help us get a more circular economy. It just has to become more second nature. I mean, like, I hate to date myself, but when I was young, recycling was not a huge deal. And now look at us. We're like separating our cans. We've got we know what the plastic numbers are. Like, we've got to figure it out. So just sort of changing our own sort of habits and behavior is a big part of that.
Yeah, and it's not even it's one step above that. We're requiring these systems to be in place.
Yeah,
having these take back programs in place. It's not just it's actually walking the walk, right? So you have to have these circular systems built into your design processes and in your manufacturing process. So I think that it actually has accountability has teeth behind what we're actually promoting. It's one thing to throw a can in the recycling bin, but you have to know that's actually going to be realized into a new can, right?
Yeah.
So those things have to be in place.
So a designer will know if they pick a product that's Cradle to Cradle certified, they'll know that it's been rigorously vetted by third party, science-based, that they're looking at 5 different categories, and that not only are you requiring that that a product is designed for a circular life cycle, but they have the systems in place to actually do that. So a designer can put that in their spec that, like, not only does this product go down, but it has to come back, so they can have an influence in that.
Yeah, so at higher levels you're exactly right. Higher levels of achievement, systems are in place, and then proof of active cycling. So
that's
it's actually making it into the product.
Yeah.
So yeah,
when you pick a Cradle to Cradle product, that stuff is actually happening. You can feel really good about it, right? So you can talk to your clients about, like, you're actually making a difference when you pick a product like this, because you know that it's actually happening, which feels nice as a designer, because you don't know how to verify that, like, the carpet you specified is now being ground back up. Like, having that sort of knowledge that someone else has got your back is really great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we really do stand behind safe, circular, and responsibly made. And I think that you're exactly right. If it has the C2C certified logo, you can rest assured that those are happening. But again, kind of providing these additional outputs that can still empower designers and architects even further where they can say, wow, 95% of this product is being actively, cycled back into the product. Those are metrics that we're trying to get to architects and designers through things like the circularity data report, the material health certificate, where they can say there are no carcinogenic substances in this product. Really empowering people to, communicate what this really means and why is it so important that I specified this product.
Yeah. And then you can talk to your client about it. When you have real numbers, you can talk to your client about it easier, So right before we wrap up, we like to ask everybody on Transparency Tuesdays, how are you shaping the market and how is it shaping you? And I feel like we touched on this a little bit, but if you had like 2 sentences on this, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think, a lot of what we just talked about, that's the true impact that we're striving for. It's a change in mindset. It's not just a certification. I think that's really important to understand, when talking about the Institute's work and what we're trying to impact. And, companies that have certified products, use our philosophy as a framework to embed these principles, into their entire process. Designers, architects, facility owners, developers are truly the ones driving the charge to specify and use Cradle to Cradle certified building products. And they're the powerful accelerator in the movement towards circular building design. If designers are not asking for specifying and designing, actual designers designing these products, into these projects, product manufacturers may not put in the investment, even though we'd like to think that they would. What I'm trying to say is that everybody has a role to play. And there's also a growing demand from certification systems like LEED and WELL, BIFMA, brands and retailers like Google and Amazon, and governments and institutions that all recognize Cradle to Cradle in their work, and they reward the use of sustainable products and materials in their systems and purchasing guidelines. So I think that everybody has a role to play.
Yeah, it's like creating a circular economy. It's a circular,
It's, the chicken or the egg sometimes, I think, if you build it, they will come. But I think that at the same time, it's I feel like every day it's my job to, help, drive this idea forward and hope that others see the value in it. And that comes from architects and designers and from building manufacturers alike. I think that they both have a role to play.
Awesome. Well, designers, if you are pumped on Cradle to Cradle, you can go to our website right now and start looking for Cradle to Cradle certified products. It is in the impact certificates and labels little tab there. And so if you have any questions, as you can tell, Bergen's an amazing resource. So chat those in now if you've got them. For those of you who are on our podcast, you can check out the episode description for the same link to get some Cradle to Cradle products immediately. In the meantime, we have tons of more snack breaks headed up your way. Next week, we have another Transparency Tuesday. I'm really excited. So definitely smash that register now button. In the meantime, Bergen, this was amazing. I'm so excited for the new version of Cradle to Cradle. And I'm really excited to see where this goes and how designers can really start to make a difference and move the needle a little bit.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ren. And thank you, Source. And if anybody, has any additional questions or want to know more about Cradle to Cradle certification or just the circular economy in general, please reach out to me. My email address is bergen@c2ccertified.org. That's Bergen, BERGEN @c2ccertified.org.
Awesome. I can't wait to see these products and this circular economy start rolling. I'm so excited. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much, Bergen. Thank you, everyone. We'll see ya. Bye.
No.